Hey algebra students, in this video we're going to talk about exponential growth and decay. So you're going to want to get this page set up in your notebook. Remember, as you're watching this video, you can always pause and rewind as needed so that you have a full and complete set of notes. So here we go, we're going to jump in. We've talked about exponential growth last week. Today in your Desmos, you looked at an example of exponential decay. Whether you have growth or decay, the equation, the rule that we use always looks the same. So it's always y equals, we're a little blurry, there we go, y equals a times b to the x power. So they take this form. And then a and b represent different things. A, this number, is always the initial value. And so in the Desmos you just saw, that was the $18,000 for the car. That was the initial value of the car. B is always what's going to be a little bit trickier. B is what we call our growth factor. You might also call it your decay factor, depending on the situation. But it's showing growth. So growth is when b is greater than 1. When we're multiplying by something more than 1, we're growing. So the genie in the lamp last week was doubling. Our growth factor was 2. And then here's the decay, is when b is less than 1. And so you saw that in the car. The decay factor was the fraction 2/3. Okay, so let's jump in and just think about a couple examples here. We're going to actually do the first example from the Desmos and just kind of talk about what you saw there. So it was the rule 10,000 times 4/5 to the t power. And so if we think about it, and you probably typed this in the Desmos, the 1,000 is the initial value of the car. The trickiest part is this fraction 4/5 here, and thinking really about what that means. Right away, we should be able to recognize that this is a decay situation. The value of this car is decreasing. But the trickier part, as we think about this, is what is it decreasing by? What this tells us is that 4/5 of the value remains. After each year. So the value decreases by 1/5. Oops. It's important, and we'll keep practicing these fractions because this will be the confusing part about this. 4/5 of the value is remaining. That means the value is decreasing by 1/5. Let's look at a second example. This is going to be useful for what you're going to do for your practice today. We'll think about a table of values and see if we can write the rule for the table of values. Okay, so here's the table of values. Well, that's a bad 800. Okay. So here we go. First off, we need to fill in what's missing here. It's really easy to pull out the initial value. The initial value is 1,000. So we have A. We know that A equals 1,000. What we need to find is B, which means we need to know what fraction or what we're multiplying by in the table. And the best way to do that is to figure out what goes right here. So you might be able to see this one, you might be able to visualize this one, but let's set it up because you will see some that will be a little bit harder. So what we're wondering is 1,000 times what number is going to give us 800? Right away we should say that that's decreasing, so this is a decay exponential function. And if I solve for this, if I put a variable in here, I would divide both sides by 1,000. So B is 800 over 1,000. So B is, you could write it as a decimal or a fraction. Let's just do a decimal. B is 0.8. And then I can verify that by checking the next one. So here, this is times 0.8. If I do the next one, then I'm going 800 times B equals 640. I'm going to say then that B is 640 divided by 800, which if I type that into my calculator, B is also 0.8. So this one is times 0.8. Then I can use that to help me continue in my pattern. So 640 times 0.8, I can type that into my calculator. You could pause here, type that into your calculator, see what you get. We get 512. That tells us for sure that B is 0.8 or 0.8 as a decimal is 4/5. Again, almost the same, a little bit different from the one above. So we could write this rule as y equals 1,000 times 0.8 to the x power. Awesome. You are ready for your practice. That will go on the next page in your notebook. It might be best to get it all written on and then grab some tape or a glue stick and get it attached in your notebook afterwards. Nice job. Let me know if you have any questions.